Day 5 of 6 of metabolism trainings. This week so far we've covered metabolism basics, all the nerdy things you really need to understand to be able to sleuth through the BS and the fads and make your own decisions about how you want to tweak your metabolism. Then we redefined obstacles and failure so you can approach your own metabolic experimentation with the right mindset. And then yesterday we talked about metabolic downers, what you're likely doing wrong that you think is right, food, sleep, stress, and movement. So we've covered a lot. Today is the good news with all of that knowledge that you now have, all the understanding of how your body and brain work with metabolism and energy processing. What can you do to turn things around and really thrive with your efficient, happy metabolism engine? I'm Dr. Heather Hammerstedt. I've got 20 years under my belt as a physician and as an integrative nutrition coach, and have loved revising my own life and those of the over 1,200 clients through Wholist, which is my labor of love coaching company where we thrive on education and accountability and success of our clients. Give me some likes and loves, please, so I know I'm not alone. Drop some things into the comments so that I know where you're coming from and what questions you have that I can address. And stay tuned, because if you get a keyword, if you do stay here, you're going to be getting a keyword at the end of the training where I have an exclusive offer for you to work directly with me. That's something that rarely happens anymore, to get to your goals. All right, quick summary. Your metabolism, we talked about, is like an engine thermostat combination. It drives all of the energy processing from the fuel that comes in, navigates how much energy it senses that you might need. It decides whether to store the energy in your adipose fat tissue or to utilize it to create more energy, expend on your resting cellular needs or active needs. And we talked about how it does that with macronutrients, which is like your food fuel for that engine thermostat, and what happens when you aren't giving your body the adequate quality and quantity of food that it needs. And what happens when you're expending energy in an inefficient way, and what happens with hormonal disruption when the body is under stress, underslept, underfed, or overtrained. If you haven't seen those chock-full trainings, you'll find them on my personal profile on Facebook and Instagram, on Wholist Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages, and the Midlife Wellness Collective Facebook group. Okay, so today we're going to dig into the good stuff. Like, what can we take from all of our learnings this week, flip them on their head to make progress with metabolic boosters? So again, we're going to talk about sleep, stress, food, and movement. Same order we talked about them yesterday about how things can go wrong. First thing is sleep. We know that poor quality or quantity of sleep can disrupt hormones like leptin, which is our satiety hormone, and ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone, with the end result being feeling more hungry, having more non-nutritious cravings, packing on adipose fat on your abdomen that sets you up for metabolic and cardiovascular disease and causes increased stress, as well as messing with some immune, reproductive, and inflammatory processes. One of the reasons we are bad sleepers is often from something that the fancy pants scientists call behavioral induced insufficient sleep syndrome, or BIS. This is the I don't need sleep, or voluntary restriction of sleep hours. We don't know anything about that, right, friends? Those of us who are multitasking, the sandwich generation of caring for parents and caring for kids and putting in the job and all of the other things, and especially physicians, we're terrible at this. So ideally, good quality sleep for 7 to 9 hours is really what seems to be tied to the best health outcomes, the best fear and anxiety extinguishing, and the best hormonal regulation. So in order to get those 7 to 9 hours, our hypothalamus and our brain needs to be in sync with the peripheral systems that feed back to it. What do I mean by that? Your retina, your pineal gland, your splanchnic system, and your adrenal glands. It sounds like a lot. Let me turn you around so that you can see this graphic, and we can talk a little. So there we go. The brain's hypothalamus has a little area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's right here, that SCM. That's not important, the word, but basically the hypothalamus is where the central nervous system of your brain really regulates your sleep. So the retina cells in our eye over here sense the light and send a message back up to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus that sends the signal down to the pineal gland, which is in your brain, which secretes melatonin, which we all have heard about in terms of our sleep studies and our good sleep, a lot of supplementation as well. And it also sends information over the splanchnic system, which is basically your GI system's brain, all the cells that are part of the autonomic nervous system that are around your GI tract, your colon, intestine, and all that stuff. And it also sends information way over here to your adrenal gland. So your adrenal gland is where that cortisol we talked about yesterday is made, as well as adrenaline and lots of other hormones. This changes your temperature, blood flow, and those systems all feed backwards. So this is simple sleep physiology, but basically when you're awake, because of all of this, your eyes are telling your brain that you're awake. You have higher cortisol from the adrenal gland. You have low melatonin from the pineal gland, increased core temperature and decreased skin flow because of this, and also some GI effects from that. When you're asleep, your core temp is lower, your skin blood flow is higher, you have that leptin secreted, right, from your brain, where that is that satiety hormone, your cortisol is down and your melatonin is up. So you can see all of that, all those changes would make it so that you're getting to this sleep in the right period of time. Your cortisol is spiking at the right period of time. Your melatonin is spiking at the right period of time, all of that. So you can start to guess at the health effects of these changes if you're awake more than you should be, right? Cortisol equals stress, inflammation, obesity, disease, and all of that. So why am I telling you all this? It seems like too much, right? Because I think the key to understanding the complexity of how sleep and your behavior are related. So activating your gut, that splanchnic system with food, is going to activate systems that's going to keep you awake. Eating carbohydrates in particular can signal awakening, and this happens because of the effect that the GI splanchnic has on the adrenal glands with cortisol. So what you eat and how hydrated you are will affect your ability to respond, your ability to absorb nutrients, and the adrenal glands' effect on that GI system and your brain is very clear. So we can modify that by drinking more water, avoiding carbohydrates near bedtime. Carbs equals cortisol equals awake. We can also modify our retinal aspect by using redder, warmer hued lights, avoiding lights at time for bed, sunglasses, and screen covers. We can modify our environment to make sure it's cool to help decrease our core temperature, but still allow that warmer peripheral blood flow. And we can restrict feeding that facilitates that circadian rhythm in the protein expression in the eye as well, sort of like we talked about just a second ago. And we can supplement with melatonin to facilitate those circadian rhythm changes when work, like me, I'm a shift worker, or travel gets in the way. So my quick takeaway, red hued lights when awakening at night and close to bedtime. Don't eat within 3 hours of the bedtime if you're a late night owl or if you're trying to adjust your circadian rhythm, especially not carbohydrates. And if you're trying to adjust your circadian rhythm in the morning, then eating carbs within 45 minutes of awakening can be a good way to reset that. Hydration is key. It has to be spread throughout the day so you're not peeing all night. So don't drink too much before 2 hours before bed. And then that bright natural light in the afternoon, but avoiding it in the evening to stay melatonin sensitive. And if you're going to exercise, try to exercise in the afternoon and outside if possible. That really stimulates as well. So I hope that's helpful with sleep. I'm going to talk a little bit now about stress. Well, I'm not a mental health professional, although some nights in our emergency department I sure feel like it. I think it's important that we touch a bit on anxiety and depression and what we can do from a lifestyle perspective, because these two emotional health diseases really affect a huge portion of us in the US and beyond, and definitely have a bidirectional effect on our body's health and disease. So let's dig in. I mean, overall, mental illness and emotional dis-ease, like we talked about yesterday, is complex. Like, duh, right? But what I mean by that is that there's genetics, there's politics that are non-modifiable causes, right? Like you can't control those external things. But there are things that are modifiable, things like stress, nutrition, environment, that are really epigenetics, like really lets you... Sorry, I'm getting like text messages. Your DNA probably accounts for about 10% of the disease or ease of health that we're experiencing, and the rest is really due to gene expression that's modified by these epigenetic things, nutrition, stress, environment, and other things. So that means that we really do have the opportunity to make a big, maybe 90% change on what's going to happen to us in the future based on how we change those. And that's really why we do things in lifestyle medicine the way that we do. So mental health and emotional dis-ease. Let's talk about anxiety as an example, because we talked about it yesterday when we talked about chronic stress from life causing chronically elevated cortisol, fight or flight, sympathetic hormone, which leads not just to anxiety, but like all the other health issues we talked about. So let's just demograph anxiety here at first, and then we'll talk about some modifiers. So anxiety disorders are one of the most common mental illnesses in the U.S. It affects I think 40 million adults, I think is the last time I saw in the United States, like age 18 or older. And that's about 18% of the population every year, so huge. They're highly treatable, but really only about 35% of people who are suffering from anxiety receive treatment. And they're 3 to 5 more times more likely to go to the doctor, 6 times more likely to be hospitalized than those that do not suffer from anxiety. So it's a really complex thing. It's genetics, it's brain chemistry, it's personality, it's life events, and it's the way that you respond to those life events that all kind of come together in terms of how you're suffering or you're not suffering. So treatment options can be can be exercise, mindfulness, bibliotherapy, light therapy, sleep management, positive social support, lifestyle work, cognitive behavioral therapy, pharmacotherapy, psychotherapy. There's tons. But for me, because I'm a lifestyle medicine person, I want to talk about exercise, food, and sleep in terms of stress modification, and a little bit about mindfulness. So exercise can prevent and treat depression and anxiety. The impact of exercise is actually comparable to cognitive behavioral therapy, which is pretty amazing. I haven't seen a study of the two things combined, but it just makes sense to me that it would be amplified to do both cognitive behavioral therapy and exercise. It actually looks like exercise may actually prevent depression in young adults if it's like a regular practice that started in childhood. In terms of food, most of our functioning scores for depression and anxiety all improve over a 6-week period when there is a decrease in BMI over the same period of time. And this is probably because the links between nutrient deficiency and mood are a little bit unknown, but we seem to see an association with fried foods, refined grains, beer, sugary products that are associated with increased rates of depression and anxiety. In fact, adults who eat fast food are 40% more likely to develop depression than those who avoid fast food. And there is a dose response effect, so more types of fat intake and more depression. Diets higher in trans fats associated with an increased risk of depression, and diets with mono and polyunsaturated fats are actually associated, although a bit weakly, with lower rates of depression and anxiety. Fruit and vegetable consumption has been associated with improvement in depression, anxiety, and productivity. In fact, a plant-based diet did show improved mood and anxiety stress scores. And it also shows that they do, eating just more fruits and vegetables can create like more feelings of engagement, meaning, purpose, curiosity, and creativity, which sounds a lot like what we all want, right? Other studies have shown that saffron, turmeric, probiotics, flax, walnuts, and vitamin C all might be helpful for both nutrients and for dopamine production. So do you have to be like on a plant-based diet for years to see this? It doesn't really look like it. It looks like mood scores can increase in just 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive, and that an increased fruit and veggie intake the same day has been associated with more positive attitudes. So overall, it looks like using whole foods, mostly plants, with unprocessed macronutrients, with those complex carbohydrates, fats, and proteins is really the way to go. Don't go crazy. I'm not telling you to be vegan. I'm just telling you to make the plate look more like plants than meat, okay? Last thing about stress, we're going to talk about mindfulness practice. Mindfulness can really significantly impact stress and cortisol levels by promoting relaxation and altering how the body responds to stress. So we can't do anything about the things that are coming from outside of us, but we can control our response. And I have a little something I want to show you here in a second about that. Mindfulness can really help people become more aware of the stressors without immediately reacting to them. And when you're not immediately reacting, it reduces the intensity of the body's stress response. Sorry. There's my puppy. So you can see here in the middle of the graph itself, you can see that the more stress is applied this way, that you go through different abilities to perform. By perform, I don't mean acting or giving a lecture or running a race. I mean just function with your best focus, attention, ability to act and think. To stay in this middle peak performance, you've got to be able to modify your response to stressors that come to you. You won't be able to change all the external stressors, but you can certainly change internally how you respond. And here's an example of how most of us respond, a stress reaction. So external event, we have an internal alarm. You have your sympathetic system and your cortisol freak out. You internalize it and you break down and have maladaptive coping. Does that sound familiar? I think that's the way most of us do this intuitively. In fact, it has been shown that if you can do a more idealized response, which is you have the external event, you consciously process it with the recognition of what's happening and how you're feeling and what you want to do about it before you make a choice on how to do it. That's a deliberate choice, which shows control of emotion and recovering back to an equilibrium. So I'm not saying this is easy. It's a lifelong practice. It takes a lifelong practice to recognize the stressors, recognizing your response and reaction, recognizing the thoughts that come up that tell you yourself about the stressor as well as those subsequent feelings, and then choosing how you want to react or respond and practicing it. With all of this lifestyle modification, you've got to treat the habit as it is what it is, building kind of railroad tracks of a new neural pathway. It isn't going to be easy at first, but with time and practice and your brain muscle memory, so to speak, it does get more familiar and easier to access until eventually it's second nature. It's using your brain like a muscle, just like you would for your muscles here. You use them more, they get stronger, it gets easier. So this is a type of mindfulness. It really, what I mean by that is really encouraging of being a present focused awareness and recognizing that you cannot ruminate about past stressors or worry about future ones, because those are just going to trigger stress reactions. But practicing something like this in combination with deep breathing or body scans really promote that relaxation stress response. And it lowers cortisol, reduces your heart rate, blood pressure, decreases the stress. And the reason why we're here is to talk about that kind of metabolic change that is associated with stress, which we talked about so much earlier in this week. So these are two ways that you can really think about how over time you can improve your emotional regulation, less frequent and intense spikes in cortisol. It really can change your brain structures in your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala to really change. Like we've done fMRI, not me personally, of course, but the scientific community, medical community has done fMRI change responses of people's brains based on when they're doing stress reactions and when they're doing stress responses, and you can see different parts of the brain lighting up. Okay, 3 of 4, we're going to talk about food, my favorite topic, my favorite thing to do, and probably the one you've heard most about, although maybe with some crisscross signals from different fads. So when we're talking about our metabolism, and again, we're talking about our energy processing, production, and utilization, you have to frame your fuel based on what you've already learned this week about how your body uses macronutrients of carbohydrates, fats, proteins to tell your body's engine what to do, and its thermostat what to expect. So this needs to happen with whole unprocessed food. Whole unprocessed foods are foods that are in their natural state, minimal or no processing, and free from most artificial ingredients, additives, or preservatives. We talked the other day about food products, which are created for sales and efficiency, not for your metabolic needs of converting food into energy and managing your cellular functions, so to say. So I like to say if it was born or grown, you can eat it. I think you should try to flip your protein on your plate so most of it's from plants with a garnish of meat, and you are well on your way. Why? Let's keep it simple. Nutrient density. Whole foods are rich in essential nutrients like vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants. We haven't talked about all that. These are micronutrients when we have been talking about macronutrients. But these micronutrients are crucial for supporting our metabolic processes and helping that body function efficiently and burning that energy instead of storing it as adipose tissue on your body. High fiber foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, they slow down your digestion. They promote satiety, they stabilize blood sugars, they prevent metabolic slowdowns that are caused by spikes and crashes of that glucose in your insulin. Processed food products, particularly those that are high in sugars and unhealthy fats, they lead to insulin resistance, which impairs metabolism. What we really want is to be insulin sensitive, meaning that insulin, which is the hormone that tells your body what to do with the glucose from carbohydrates, i.e. should we store it or should we put it into the Krebs cycle for energy, that's what we want. So whole foods, rich in fiber, healthy fats, those improve your insulin sensitivity, which allows your body to really use that glucose effectively in keeping your metabolism running smoothly. One of the last things I want to talk about with food is your gut health. And we touched about this briefly, I think, on Tuesday. And I have an entire gut health training I can send you if you want. But the bacteria that is live and living on your intestines are essential for how you process micronutrients and create hormones for digestion and brain health. You need to have the right, happy, positive bacteria that help those systems flourish, not the negative, inflammatory ones that gunk things up. Whole, unprocessed foods, especially those rich in fiber and prebiotics like vegetables, fruits, fermented foods, and whole grains, really help a healthy gut microbiome. Your happy gut bacteria thrive on these healthy foods. Processed food products are not only inflammatory, they don't provide the macronutrients or the micronutrients that we need for efficient energy production and metabolism, and they feed the unhealthy negative bacteria that cause not just GI upset, but inefficient micronutrient absorption and poor hormone regulation for brain health and GI health and much, much more. We're talking skin, hair, immune system, cardiovascular, all the things. So overall, a balanced gut microbiome helps regulate your metabolism, reduce inflammation, improve nutrient absorption, and this happens with whole, unprocessed food. The other thing with whole foods is that they can actually improve the thermic effect of food, meaning the energy that is required to metabolize the food. So, for example, protein-rich food like lean meat, eggs, and legumes have a higher energy factor, which means that they burn more just to break themselves up. The body burns more energy just to break themselves up, so really metabolically efficient. So some practical tips around food. Shopping, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where the Whole Foods live. Stay away from the middle. That's where they market the food products. Meal prep, this doesn't have to be hard. Use a slow cooker, Instapot, or air fryer to make things at the moment more convenient. My general approach is to keep meal preps super, super simple, especially on busy weeks. Buy your complex unprocessed carbohydrates like whole grains, veggies at the store. Buy a couple different types of lean protein if you're eating meat, and then a few yummy options for different types of sauces and dressing while watching out for added sugars in those. As an aside, did you know that a teaspoon of sugar is equivalent to 4 grams of added sugars? I mean, if that doesn't change how you look at reading labels. Anyway, so I batch cook everything separately. I store them in glass containers. I do this maybe once or twice a week. And on the day of, I open my refrigerator. I see all the glass in there and the different things that I can have. I take some complex carbs. I take some protein. I mix it with different sauce and a dressing, and boom, off I go. There you go. Another practical tip, mindful eating. The benefits of slowing down and being mindful during meals really can improve digestion and metabolism, and this cannot be overemphasized. I have a whole separate training on mindful eating if you want, so let me know in the comments. But basically, slow that down. Taste the food, put down your fork, feel the sensation of the food, chew a bunch, drink water, avoid distractions, make good conversation. Think about the process of how that food got to you and what your body is going to do with it so you can thrive. So whole unprocessed food are not just about weight management, although that's important and that's why most of you are here, but overall health and longevity. By making these small changes to focus on whole foods, you really can improve your metabolic efficiency and well-being. Lastly, we're going to talk about movement. Yesterday, we spoke about the metabolic downer of overtraining, and cardio can actually slow down your metabolism. So today, we're going to talk about how we can mix in strength training to that cardiovascular fitness, really delve into resistance and figure out how that can boost your metabolism. So we want to have the body burning and utilizing as much energy as it can, right? So your body doesn't store it all away as adipose fat tissue, right? So how does increased muscle mass do this? So it's an active calorie burn. So beyond resting metabolism, having more muscle increases your total energy expenditure, meaning how much energy you are burning a day, because your muscle tissue is more active during movement. Whether you're walking, exercising, doing the dishes, whatever it is, more muscle leads to higher calorie burn during activity. Basically, increased muscle mass boosts your metabolism, primarily because muscle tissue is just more active than fat tissue. Muscle tissue requires more energy to maintain compared to fat tissue, even when you're at rest. That means the more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns throughout the day, just to sustain basic physiological functions like breathing, circulation, and cell repair. Research has shown that each pound of muscle can burn 6 to 10 calories per day at rest. So multiply that 6 to 10 based on how many pounds of muscles you have, which you can figure out on one of those in-body scans or something like that, or just guess. Where fat only burns 2 to 3 calories per pound. Again, you can either guess or go get one of those scans. You can see what percentage and what actual amount pounds of you is muscle versus fat. If you're kind of a numbers kind of person, we're not always are. But you can see that that's like 3 to 5 times more calories per day from muscle burn than fat. So you want more muscle. Building muscle can significantly increase that resting metabolic rate, overall calorie expenditure. Strength training also has something called an afterburn effect or an EPOC. So strength training and high intensity workouts that build muscle also induce this afterburn, which fancy EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, basically means your body continues to burn calories, burn energy at an elevated rate after the workout. This further enhances your metabolism. In cardio, you only burn through that energy when you're actively doing the cardio. I don't know about you, but I sure love to have work done for me. So put in the effort with the strength training, and that's exactly what happens for you for the whole rest of the day. Your muscle also can help you with metabolic efficiency. So your muscle tissue is more sensitive to insulin, which improves how your body uses glucose for energy, again, into that Krebs cycle. Better insulin sensitivity helps you regulate your blood sugar, prevents excess glucose being stored as fat, which can indirectly boost your metabolism. And I think, lastly, I wanted to talk about metabolic flexibility in terms of muscle mass. So metabolic flexibility really can lead to long-term health and improved outcomes. That really means that the ability to fastly switch between burning fat and carbohydrates for energy happens faster when you have more muscle. This flexibility can help maintain a healthy weight, reduce the risk of metabolic disorders like obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, maybe even dementia and cognitive decline. So really what I'm saying is just lift heavier things. It's really important to have cardiovascular fitness and endurance, but really building in those high intensity workouts and resistance strength training and lifting heavy is going to build and maintain muscle mass and significantly increase your metabolism by boosting your resting metabolic rate, enhancing your calorie burn, improving your insulin sensitivity, and promoting your metabolic health and flexibility. So I really think that this is crucial for the effective and sustainable weight management, regardless of what age this is. This can look different for everyone, and you may need help for someone to get you on the right track, but super important. All right, so I had fun. That was a little long, but we talked about sleep, stress, movement, and food in terms of metabolic boosting and some understanding of why that's going to be the case and some practical tips. So If I'm tired of talking, my guess is you're tired of learning. If you've made it this far, you are in luck. I have an offer just for you. I'm doing something special for September 2nd. I'm going to be personally leading a coaching group through our physician-developed, evidence-based, self-empowering weight wellness program. I'll be helping you align your biology, psychology, and lifestyle so that a slimmer, healthier, and more capable new you becomes automatic. We'll get you back to a healthier metabolism, resolve the mental and biological cravings, and make it so you no longer have to use willpower with some crazy yo-yo diet that never lasts. Losing weight does not have to be torture, and keeping it off does not have to seem impossible. We've had hundreds of coaching clients go through the weight wellness and completely transform their health from the inside out, holistically and personalized to them. It's going to be a combination of live coaching with me and the daily empowerment and motivation of our weight wellness program, which is delivered in bite-sized pieces right to your phone, daily education and content and podcasts from me. To be honest, this is really a rare opportunity to work with me directly. I really rarely do this except for weight wellness alumni clients. So to get me right off the bat as a Wholist newbie at this price is a steal, all for joining me on these trainings this week. To join me in this special group, you just have to do one of three things, whichever one is more convenient to you. You can drop the word training in the comments wherever you're watching here. You can go to holisthealth.com/group and mention the word training. I will put that into the comments when I'm done. Or you can just message me directly on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn and use the word training. Okay, so that is your special offer today for hanging in with me for all this knowledge this week. Tomorrow I'll be covering metabolism and aging, particularly perimenopausal and menopausal women. If you're one of those, you will be one of those, or you love one of those, please watch. There's going to be a lot to learn. So what modifications of what we've already covered are necessary to keep thriving as your hormones inevitably drift down with aging, and I am right there with you. So let's do this together. Tomorrow afternoon around 3:30. I did come in a little bit late today because of a school pickup fiasco, and those things are going to happen. But I will be here as close to that time as I can. And if you're a health practitioner or a health coach or a physician, I have got something special to announce tomorrow about an expansion of our clinic partner program that will allow you to more easily integrate our proven weight wellness program into your practice. So come learn about that. Remember, if you want to join me in this special group of me doing personal coaching within the group, remember to drop the word training in the comments, message me directly, or go to holisthealth.com/group to join me for this rare opportunity to utilize my brain to help you implement our validated 12-week weight wellness program. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Cheers.